Welcome to the Executive Coaching Podcast, where executive coach Alicia Cowan will discuss leadership topics and coaching solutions to tackle the most difficult problems that keep you from leading your team to success.
Hi there, leaders. Welcome to episode number 40 of the Executive Coaching Podcast. I'm Alicia Cowan, and today we are going to talk about rest. As I'm recording this, it's Memorial Day weekend, and we just finished the last day of school for two of our kids this week, just yesterday. And so we are in this mindset of the kickoff of summer and the start of the summer season. So for me, a lot of times that means thinking through and doing a little bit of a reset of sorts. So a little bit of a hindsight and reflection on the year so far and evaluating where we want to be next. And it's just a great time to check in. And as with the change of seasons, really look at how we're spending our time, what we're doing, and if we want to continue in that path or make some adjustments. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today and really the topic of rest. And so I want you to be thinking as we go along through this conversation, how you're doing in regards to providing yourself and giving yourself the rest that you need. Before we dive into that though, man, there have been some amazing client wins that I want to celebrate. So I've worked with a few clients that have had some significant wins and life changes in the past. So I just want to call them out. I helped a client with negotiating a pay increase at a new company. She's switching roles and was trying to understand how to blend the value of the role and the market value of this new job, and then her prior role and prior income that she was making, and how to navigate the conversation of the negotiation and pay increase, and really landed in a great spot. So congratulations on your new role and getting that pay raise that you were so excited about. I've also had two different clients making massive career changes that they've been contemplating for a while and debating how they want to show up in their life for themselves, for their family, and for the companies that they serve and add value to every day. And so making some big moves and some changes for themselves, and in a way that I think is going to be amazing to watch their growth. And then I've also had some clients with some structural changes within their organizations. So I have one leader really doing the work to learning the capability that she has to lead large teams. It is a lot different when you start leading people leaders. So people that report to you that are also managing people, and perhaps even their teams are managing people. So exponentially, as you work your way up, you lead bigger and bigger teams and have less of a sense of control over all of those teams. But it's a different skill set. And so I commend this client that's doing that work. And again, I have two other clients, one getting promoted, taking on new team members, and doing the work to forge those new professional relationships and that rapport. And I've got another one that is learning to lead different generations and really working hard to bring up the next generation of the employee in the workforce. And that is some of the work that we've been doing together in the past few weeks. So shout out to all of you. You know who you are, and commend you on the growth and the work that it takes, because we all know being a leader, not an easy feat. So congratulations on all the work that you've achieved. And with that in mind, with all that work that's being accomplished so far this year, that's where it brings us to our current topic today of talking about rest. So I too have a coach. I have a business coach that helps me. And we were talking recently about the concept of rest. And she asked me how I was making time for myself to rest. And my immediate response to her was to talk about sleep. And so she corrected me and said, rest can equate to sleep, but that's not all encompassing of what rest really is about. And so it really caught me off guard because I had actually never really thought about this concept of rest, to be honest. And so for you, who are also I consider my clients, I research, I absorb, and I share these lessons that I've learned back with you. And so I started to do the research, and something came across my LinkedIn feed from a doctor, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, had a really great TED talk about rest. And it was really fascinating and interesting. And she's talked about that concept of feeling really exhausted even after sleeping and resting. And she basically brought up that you have 7 different types of rest that are out there, and you might be missing out on one of the 7 types of rest if you still feel exhausted after having some type of rest. And so I'm going to share a little bit of like her work and try to put it in my own words to share with you. But if you're interested, again, she has a great TED talk that you can look up. Again, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith, Google it, really easy to find on the internet. But I want to share this with you because I think as senior leaders, we don't really take this concept of booking ourselves on our calendar and booking our own rest that is so dire to our success, and we don't necessarily always take it and consider it first. And I, again, recently was one of those types of people. So if I'm thinking this, I imagine you might be too. This is the perfect season for it as we head into summer to think about how you're going to fit this into your calendars if you so choose. So let's dive in and talk about these 6 different types of rest. So the 7 different types of rest deficits that we might have, or these 7 key areas, are number one, the first type of rest is just really quite simply a physical rest. This is the one I think that we most think of when we're thinking about rest, because it can be that passive sleep or taking a nap or just kind of vegging out and not actively doing anything. It can also be an active rest, which I never thought of before, but an active rest can be something that's super restorative and really calming. So things like yoga, just a simple stretch, a massage, or even, something that again is possibly movement that could be included. So it makes it a little bit more active, but it does also just help the body to rest and relax. Okay. So that's number one. And as I'm going through these, I didn't mention this before I jumped into one, but as we go through these, if you want to jot down a note to yourself or even mentally note to yourself, if you're listening to this while you're on the go, and ask yourself, am I providing myself this type of rest? And number 2, how do I feel about this area of rest in my life? Okay. And that way you might have a sense of where you might want to give yourself a little bit more. All right. So, second type of rest, mental rest. So you think about mental rest and you might think of that coworker that they like go to work every day and they have to have this massive cup of coffee or energy drink. And even though they're like ingesting all this caffeine throughout the day, they might be irritable or forgetful, or they have difficulty concentrating in a meeting. And it's that person that might, like, as they go to sleep at night, their mind is like still spinning and like they are having struggles with like turning off those like conversations or their like thoughts throughout the day. And so it keeps them up at night. And so even they might be resting for those 7, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever, they really wake up feeling as if they never rested and went to sleep. Okay. That could be a really big indicator of a mental rest deficit. And some of the tips that were shared were, the good news is that you don't have to like quit your job. And that's not necessarily the solve for this. And you don't have to necessarily even go on vacation in order to fix it. While a vacation might help, even a short break. So if you're looking at your day and you need a moment where about, let's say every 90 minutes to 2 hours, you just get a little like quick break to like mentally slow things down. And you can also, for sometimes that nighttime mental energy that keeps you up at night, use a notepad by the bed just to jot down those nagging thoughts that keep you awake, or punch it into your phone quickly to let go of some of that mental energy. But it does signify if you have that mental churn and that mental stimulation that you need to sometimes turn that off and give yourself a little bit of a break from that. Okay. Okay, the third type of sensory rest. This one I think we've started to hear a lot more about because of the devices that we always have either in our hands or in our face. So this is the stuff that you know about with the bright lights, the computer screen. Sometimes it can just be the background noise or like conversations that are around us. So whether you're sitting at home, working from home, or in an office, this is like that type of stimulation, the sensory stimulation that can make you feel overwhelmed. So this can be as simple as a fix as just, again, taking a break. And if you are in a sensory rich environment, getting to one that is not, and simply like closing your eyes, keeping things really quiet just for a little break, a little intermittent break for a few minutes a day. And so intentionally setting some time aside where you're not inundated from all angles with your senses can really help undo that long-term damage of being in our like very overstimulated world. All right, number 4, the fourth type of rest is a creative rest. So this is really important for somebody that is in an environment that they need to problem solve or brainstorm new ideas. So with senior leaders, absolutely a must for us. So creative rest allows us to almost like re-kickstart the brain and reawakens that like awe and sense of wonder and the sense of just dreaming up new ideas. And so a really great break for this and a way to do it is to really get in nature, get outside, take in the outdoors, even if it's somewhere local, like a local park or somewhere green in your local environment that can give you the creative rest that you need. And why that's so important is because if you're 40 hours a week or more, let's be honest, staring at either just the same surroundings in your either, kind of clean slate of an office or maybe jumbled sense of an office with a lot of your environment, they have a lot of stuff around you, it doesn't allow for that same creativity and passion to bubble up inside of you. It doesn't allow for innovation and it doesn't allow for that thinking to come up naturally. Another great option is to get out and enjoy the arts. So going to an art museum or even something that, again, could be beautiful, even an architecture or something that, again, would allow you to basically just get outside your norm and spark some creativity. So again, didn't think about this one. And I do know how I feel differently when I get outside and get out in nature. And I know when I have a craving for it. Luckily, I'm in a situation where I'm in Florida as well. So going to be able to look at the ocean and be in the ocean definitely revives me, but never had put it into words this way. So that, my friends, is creative rest. Okay, so 3 more types of rest. The next one is emotional rest. So this can be thought of if you were thinking about this in another human. It's the person that you might think is like the nicest human ever. And it's the person that maybe everybody relies on, the one that you might call and if you're in need of a favor, and you know that they're going to give you a reluctant yes rather than a truthful no. This is the person that may be a people pleaser. However, when they are alone and not being asked to do things, they at times might feel like they're being taken advantage of or maybe underappreciated. This person is an example of someone that really needs some emotional rest. So that means they've got to be more authentic in expressing their feelings and perhaps saying no and cut back on the people pleasing. If you have this need for emotional rest, it also requires this courage to be super authentic. And what that could look like is if somebody asks how you're doing, and you can be truthful in it and to let somebody know if you're not okay, rather than just being like, everything's great and not really meaning it. It takes courage to share those things that might be tough to say. And again, doesn't mean you have to just emotionally spill everything, but to be honest with yourself and others when you do need a little bit of a break. Okay. The next one is somewhat tied to emotional rest. But if you are in need of emotional rest, you might also have a social rest deficit too. So a social rest deficit is when we're struggling to differentiate between relationships that we have within our lives that really pour into us, that revive us, and separate those from those relationships that pull from us and exhaust us. Okay. So if you need more social rest, it's being able, how do you discern and surround yourself with the people that are positive and supportive, and discern between those relationships then again that are depleting and that you might need to extract yourself from or spend less time. Doesn't mean you have to, cut everyone out of your life, but maybe spend less time and maybe limit some time if you do have some relationships that are depleting you. Okay. So how do you make sure that you can give yourself both the social and emotional rest that you need? All right. Then there is one last final type of rest. Number 7 is spiritual rest. So no matter what you believe or what your spiritual beliefs are, but this is really just that ability to connect beyond just the physical and the mental, and to feel this really deep sense of belonging and love, acceptance, and just a purpose. Again, no matter what your beliefs, an option that you could have to engage in is just to engage in something that is greater than yourself. It could be giving back to your community and getting involved. It could be meditation. It could be prayer. And again, just something that would help restore you within that area and that realm of spirituality. Okay. So those are the 7. So again, if you're like me, maybe you were surprised to hear that is beyond just sleep that can restore us to the point where we feel rested. I was really surprised to know that there were these 7, and I easily could identify some areas in my life where I need a different type of rest. And so I'm working on that myself this summer and have been reconfiguring my own schedule and time to incorporate some of these. So it's time for us to potentially reset. If you listen to this and thought maybe there are some areas where you could use some help and want to try to configure it, I also work with leaders on their schedules. I do a process where we go through and audit how we're using our time and if it's effective in achieving the goals that we want to achieve. And for me, I'm going to use this type of work to include the portion that we should be carving out for ourselves. And this concept of rest is definitely something I'm going to be talking about and incorporating and using on myself. So if that's something you need help with, and you want to get really clean and clear and quick results in terms of auditing your schedule and getting back to a place where you feel more rested and more in balance with your life, I am so happy to help you. Again, I have had some major client wins recently. And so if you want to be in that same arena where you're moving things forward faster than if you could do them yourself, please don't hesitate to contact me and get in touch. I would be so happy to help you and talk about what it would be like to work together and how you can get results quickly as well. So appreciate you as always. If you're listening to this at the time it's being closely recorded, happy start of summer, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Executive Coaching Podcast with Alicia Cowan. If you're ready to have an executive coach who's ready to help you lead your team to success, then book an introductory call at aliciacowancoaching.com/call.